back here. Now here, when we say file and we say new, I'm creating a new document, right, in Photoshop. But remember, we were talking about the sizes of your page container. We've been talking about 920 as a width. Now, if you want to make a background, this is what you're thinking. That the gradient effect which you want to create, how big is that, and how big is going to be your height as well for your web page. Because if you're creating something gradient, if it's dark to low or it's darker to light, whichever you want to weigh, what is going to be the height of your page? Yeah. So what height, width and height would be based on that. So let's say if I've given the height width as 920 and let's say I've given the height as 1000. Is that okay? So that's your page. I'm looking at it at 50%. Is that right? It's not 100%, it's 50% at the moment. So that's your blank page. Now, if you want to pick up the two colors, let's pick up green. Let's let it be this. Now, I want to work with gradient. I'll show you how gradient, remember this was linear and how you select, right? There's circular as well. That's a circle. So your gradient is, so if I go outside and start, it depends on how that color would come up. Yeah. There is three-dimensional as well, which is, yeah. Yeah. This is what we don't usually use, and this is three colors. Green, because the background color is that way. It is, and this is small. So gradient works in different ways, right? That tool has got different. I'm going to go back with linear, and I just want, let me just, so that's what I want to work with, whichever way, and take it whatever you want. I mean, now when we do backgrounds, this is not what I want. Let's say this, right? Now when we want to make background, should I save this as a whole as a background? Because if you're going to use, even if you save for web, it will be huge size, isn't it? So we don't use this whole thing as a background. What we just use is, we select. You could just select. That's, you can do fixed column as well. Here you do get a size. I can just select how much do I want to. Right? I want to select a very thin line of that, right? So file, new, whatever I have done, I cut that and I put that into the new file. Yeah. And now I'm going to do is what I'm going to save this for web. Yep. And I'm going to save that as a, only if you have transparency, take as PNG. If you have, I have used green and blue, but let's say if you use green and transparent, you could keep it that way. I'm going to say JPEG, save. I've saved this as a background. I've saved this little file as a background, right? JPEG, and obviously named it as a background. I've saved it as a JPEG. Is it still working? Okay, saved. So if I am in Dreamweaver now, I think it's still opening. Maybe it will open. Because I'm recording, it is just slightly slower. I just want to show you how we will use it, that's all. Says manage sites, cancel, just go into whatever the required website is. Yeah, I think I did show to some people. I was able to show when you guys were making it, but I'm not sure everybody. So let's say if I have this HTML, I'm just gonna, I've got this page. I don't have, just want to do a CSS, quick CSS. ID, page container. And when you do a background, I'm not using a full color, I'm saying browse. And I'm going to say an image here. Now, if you don't see anything, by default, images are repeated. Yeah? Which folder am I working in? I didn't make that folder. Cancel. Wait a minute, I just don't, that's not the site I'm working. I want to make my own site news. It's not going to let me. 27th April, right? That's it. And this is the ID we were making. ID, background, browse. Yep. Box. I've not given any height, but let's say I'm going to give this. I've not made a separate CSS, but you follow that I've created a rule, isn't it, which is a background. Now, if I insert a div in this page, and I say insertion point, because my cursor was not inside body, that's why. Insert div. That's the background automatically coming up. Now you will see that my line has actually got itself repeated. It will automatically get repeated because you've not said it. If you don't repeat it, then it's a difference. It's a different thing. But by default, it repeats, background repeats itself until unless you say no repeat. Then it doesn't repeat. That's that one line, little line. Yeah. So if I remove this repeat, that's how you would get. Now it doesn't have to be. I had set 1000 as a width height, isn't it? And 920, but that was my original. It doesn't. Later on it was just 1 pixel, and the height is still longer, right? Now once the 1000 width is gone, it will obviously repeat itself again. Now it's up to you. How do you want to maintain that onto your website? Sometimes we give a background color towards the lighter or a darker shade, which, if the page has gone very long, then the last section blends in with whatever the color comes. You can have this background position. You have a concept in here for background. You have background, repeat, not repeat, background attachment, and background position. You can actually set whether you want your background in the center or from the left, from the right, from the bottom, from the top. So you know where on the page should your background sit. So let's say now on my this, the blue is at the top and green is towards the bottom. Now if your background starts from the top, you might want to give a background color to your page as green, so that when this finishes, if the page becomes longer, that green thing is extended. People will not get to know that the background is over, right? But for that, make sure that you say background repeat and only repeat X, not repeat Y. Otherwise, there would be a blue starting again. Yeah, but this can be done anywhere on the page, and I don't have to do it to the page container. I can actually do it to body.
Can you set the
Sorry.
Can you set the background color and the image at the same time?
Yes. Because where the color image would finish, the color would be. It's like having a wall paint and a wallpaper. Do you understand? On your wall, having a wall paint, and on top having a wallpaper. Where the wallpaper finishes, and if it's a smaller size, you will see the wall paint underneath. If it's the same size, you won't. But if it's smaller, you will see the color. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Only so many pixels deep. So
1000.
Yeah. So what did you say happens if you have a
I'll show you what I'm trying to say. Look, this is to the page container. I've applied this to a page container. I don't want to apply to a page container. I want to apply that to a body. So let's go and let me just change this to, instead of PC, it's to body. I still have this div, is that right? Now this is applied to the body, right? And do you understand?
So that means you have to repeat Y as well.
You have to repeat Y. But if you repeat Y, what happens? If I just remove this, it will repeat itself. But then blue will come, which I don't want. I don't want that blue to repeating because it wouldn't look nice. Yeah? So what I should do is, I should use this background, and if I want, I will have to say background and only repeat X. This way, don't go repeat itself down, because that's not what is intended. But on top of this, I use background color and cancel, scroll down all the way, and then choose this background color, as I don't
Still repeating. Why?
okay, I've not changed that. I've removed, oh yeah, I've not added background property. Background, repeat, X, apply, okay. So now you don't know where it finishes, but you still have that gradient. Well, you would know where, but you wouldn't. Yeah, because you know the line contain. Yeah, so wherever it is ending, it's just gonna go. I mean, as long as you have got the effect, what effect you wanted. But what I'm saying is the effect can be the other way around. This image can be at the bottom and you want green to go upward and you want to have blue at the top. You can attach this background to the bottom. Because sometimes we have those, we can have pebbles, stones. I don't know if you've seen images where you have got a lot of things at the bottom of the page. Now that is a background, but that background sits only at the end of the page. And on top there is a color.
I saw a background with gradient.
No, it doesn't. No, 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 no. What they have done is what they have done is that they've used a gradient in such a way that like there's a green and a green and there's a blue tinge, right? Whatever you want. But then you can attach this image doesn't have to be 1000 pixels. What if it's just 100 wide? Just the 100. Then I can apply this background to any div, isn't it? It's up to you how do you want. I can only apply it to header. It's up to you where I'm not saying this can only be used with the background of the page. I'm saying you can use this concept anywhere on your page, and usually we have these things on tabs. If you want to create tabs, like you had your food and recipes, isn't it? Your food and recipes which you were copying, they had that green color thing, and then they had brown top and then a bigger brown. They were all gradient effects, but I don't have to put a block. What I'm trying to say is you don't have to have a block image. All you need is just a slice of that little image, and you repeat it because so that your div can be longer, then the size can be variant from what the actual size is, so that you can repeat it. Yeah, you can use them to create different types of um, boxes or effects. And earlier we used to do it with for the round corners. So what we had to do was save the round corner pixels separately, bottom separately, and now we don't have to worry about the round bottom corners because that can be done with CSS. It's just the gradient. Gradient can also be done by CSS, but it's a long code until unless you know how to write that. Is that okay? Yeah. So this is something which people make, and this is the same concept you're going to use to make buttons as well, because that's all what is there in buttons, isn't it? That's why people use buttons, don't they? No? Yes? Okay. Maybe. Okay. Now when we are, this is what how all I'm saying is you will see that this is most of the cases. This was something which you would use. If you were making button in Photoshop, go new. The width, you will have to decide what widths do you want, what height would you want, 50 answer, or 35. 35 is a good height. 135. But again, it depends on how many buttons, how much navigation do you want on your page as well. The size should vary. Keep that as 72. Now that's the place. I'm going to just zoom this so that you have more place to work with, right?
Or maybe you can do in a bigger size and then you optimize the size at the end of the work. Because if it's higher the resolution, you can work better on Photoshop. So
I still say if you're making button, 72 is good. I mean, if it was something else, I would probably go on a higher. If it's a button, we'll still go by 72. It's good enough resolution to work. Now, sorry?
When you use 72, the resolution, you can save space.
Yep. Now that's your one button, right? We're going to make one button out of it. Now, if you, this is how you know that you can work with gradient here, right? But one thing which I didn't show you was in this, let's make me a new layer to show you. I can close that, right? That's my blank new layer. Now, if I had used this selection tool here, and I had this, right? And then I would have used this gradient. It will only fill that. Do you understand? I don't have to fill a gradient or a bucket on a full thing. It works only on selection as well. Yeah. So the selection tool is different types. So I could draw a angle and then fill it with a gradient. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just one. And then there are shapes. That tool is so many shapes. The shapes is the difference from the difference between this selection is that I've done this on the paper. Is that right? I've done these selections on the paper. Whereas those would be shapes, they are like objects on top of the paper. Right? So if I draw something from here, Can you see there's another layer which has come up, right? It's a different layer. So you can have as many as layers you want to have, and you can create that effect. Um, and whether you want to have outline or not, and whether you want to use a gradient, but this will not work on shape. You will have to choose a gradient to work on a shape. Yeah, your normal set, the gradient tool doesn't work on the shape. So if I just hide this for the time being, that's your is that okay? Yeah. But whatever I'm making, they are becoming as different layers, right? So I'll have to change. Why is it not changing? Stroke is that one. Is that right? So now up to me. If I can hide, I can bring up, and on top of that, I can change where they are as well. I can move them to make them upper or lower. Yeah. But these are just, you're just playing with the layers and you are making different shapes. Now, you could use the same concept to do your buttons, right? So if I was on my this and you wanted to make a button, the easiest button would be to choose gradient. Is that right? Yeah. So what kind of a gradient? I don't want that. Thinness. Okay. I want to just use the gradient tool. I don't want and on top of that I want to write down I'm going to make it slightly bigger and then make it move it wherever you want to. Is that, yeah? And I want to show you that what I'm trying to do in a minute. You probably might not see. My machine is not probably working. I think this is gone, but it's still not showing me that it's gone. I'm just waiting for it to respond. The reason for that was whatever you've learned so far, I can actually use the same skills to, it's just not, I want to cut that. And what will happen is that I can get weird shapes. I can get transparent. If I cut it, if I'm, it's the same, it doesn't matter, it's the same color because, okay, if I change the color, if you're saying, it's just that it's not, this is not the right figure at the moment. Does that make sense? I can do it with this as well. I don't have to do it. It's just so slow at the moment. Here, I've selected now. What I'm doing is I've just done a selection. So you understand what I'm trying to do? I mean, I can here. Right? Now my button is going to be that big, but it's going to be, the shape itself will become like that. So, you know, the shape of the button itself will be this. You can make whatever shape, whatever colors whatever you want to make, but there are so many things which can be just done by just simple this. Yeah. All you're doing is making this. Now, if I want to save this file, should I save it as a PSD? Should I save it for web? You should save it as a PSD first and then save for web. But what you will have to do is save for web, and I'm going to do PNG this time. Is that right? Save. Home. Yeah. Save. Now all I have to do is go back on this text T and change the is that okay? And then save it as about us. Yeah. When you're doing that, never lose your PNG in case you want to add more. So you have to save your PSD, right? But you should always make a separate folder for your PSDs rather than putting all of them at the end, because I've seen people later on when they upload their files, everything is on the website. Huge files on the internet, on the web hosting space, so that if even somebody hacks it, knows how to, I mean, you've given them everything in the first place. So that's one. Now, if I wanted to create a rollover effect of this, what can I do? Hover over. Change the gradient slightly, maybe change the color of the about us. So it depends on what do you want, what kind of a change do you want to bring in this button when you want. Yeah, light, usually we do is light to dark, dark to light, or you can just change the color of the text, isn't it? You could do that, or you could just change the color of the button itself. Yeah. So if that's the case, then I am on this layer. That was your, and that was your dark. So am I changing the gradient? Okay, let me just change file, save, save. I've saved this as a PSD, so that before I make any changes, I've got my original PSD, right? So, and then I'm on this. Great. If you want a gradient, it's still fine. If you don't want a gradient, okay. need to select, yeah, I'm gonna do this and do that, and then do an inverse selection. And then I'm gonna fill up the, yeah, I've reversed the gradient part. Not necessarily that you have to do that. You could just, yeah, I've changed the kind of a gradient, and on top of that I can change the color if I of the text if I want. I have the tool with me. I can go about and I can change this to, right, or a total different, anything which is on your, what goes on your page. I don't know what other color people have on that. So once you've done that, now you do file save for web. File save for web, and I can save that as a PNG. Save. Now this is about us, but this is about us rollover, right? That's save. Now, and I need to save this as my PSD as well, which is, I've overwritten my PSD. Click on save. Now, once you're doing, how are you going to do that? How are you going to bring this in your here, Dreamweaver? Sorry? No. You okay? There are so many ways of doing that. Of doing this basically. You could do, if you have individual, now because we've written down about us and everything on top of them, right? Then there's only one way. You do this image and image rollover images. Yeah, because the reason for that is because I've got a button and I've got a button for each navigation, right? It's home is one and home rollover is a different button. So what you will have to do is rollover. It says here original image and rollover image. So I choose browse and I choose my first, I think my other have gone in this one, or they're outside. Home. Oh, no, we've made about, isn't it? So let's go for about us. About us. Yeah. And then rollover images, about us roll. And then alternative text. Remember alt text? For everything you have to read. So find out more about food and recipes. I'm just going by the making you were making. And click where do you want to link this to. I want to link this to about.html file. Where should that button be linked, right? So you have which image should be shown first, which image should be shown on the rollover, what is the alternative text, and where should it link to. Once you've said that, click on OK. That's your button. Not for this. Yeah. Insert image object, rollover image, browse, home. Okay. Okay. I'm just taking the about us only. I know that that's not, but it's fine. Okay. No. Okay. Yeah. That is the size of the button. That is what I'm saying. It is the space, the button is that big. It is an image, so why would it go in the next line? It's an image. When you insert another image to next, the first image, where does it go? In the same line. So why should it go down?
So that space is basically transparency then, right?
Yeah. If you're using this, then you don't really need to create divs. Can you see your buttons?
Yes.
That one will also give you about us because that's the image we've put in. Yeah. Internet Explorer by default gives a border. I don't know if you know. Uh, Internet Explorer gives borders to images. That's a default. You won't find them on. But you should be able to take them away. You know the borders, A hover, border none. I mean nuns.
So what type of space should we give it? We design that part.
Because I remember I gave 100 and I've taken those shapes. That's why there's an extra space there which you're not seeing.
So whenever you want to give space, you have to make it transparent.
Yeah. It's up to, I mean, that's not must. It's up to you whether you want to leave it as transparent or a fixed background filled space. Up to you, completely up to you. How do you want to leave that spaces? Is that okay? But there are many button generators as well. The same thing, they're just images. Here, right? This is a button generator software. I mean, online tool. Whatever you can choose, what color do you want? Right? And then what font size do you want to give? And is there anything else? Box, this. But this is CSS button generator. Can you see? So that means you'll have to copy this code into your page, into your CSS. And then obviously you should know how to apply this. It's a class which you'll have to apply to your div. Yeah, this is a C. But then there are a non-CSS3 button generators as well. These ones where you will get, there's some, and there is, which also works as a button. Yeah, they are animated buttons. You just you have to do is your class has done this at level 1. Probably you did some. So let's take that. You have a complete choice of what color do you want, whether you want to give glow or not.
Is it overlay?
Yeah, they are right click and save as. That's it. Right, same thing. It's up to you. How do you want to do the buttons? Do you want to go in Photoshop and create your own? The only thing is that they are quite typical. You know, the shapes are going to be quite typical. Uh, if you're learning, if you want to make something like I'll give you an example. If I'm making a website, I remember making a website long ago about olive trees. Then it was nice to add a olive shaped menu, the button. But then on top of that, we added a picture of an olive, 3 olives or 4 olives onto that button. Very small, tiny, but having it in. Things like I'm talking about my profile website, having a pen. It's, there can be 100 ideas which you want to do. Now these button generators won't have that. The only thing they will going to give you is a background and a glow, and that's all. Most of them don't have that transparency. If the shape is eclipse or anything else, then it will. Otherwise, they're mostly rectangular. But if you want to create any other shape, like tree, let's say a small miniature tree, or ice cream cone, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is whatever you have, then you will have to know that that's the whole idea is that's just an image. That button is just an image. It's like you're adding that as another image on your page. Is that okay? Yeah. So now for your level 2 Dreamweaver exam, you have to make a button. For your level 2 Dreamweaver exam, you have to make a button. No, you have to make an image, right? But you don't have to have rollovers. The only concept is that there should be a button for a navigation. Now, whether you use this or you go in Photoshop and create it, choice is completely up to you. It's too hot. Yeah, or reduce the temperature.
This may be easy because you don't have to create button each menu.
You have to, isn't it?
You don't have because it's a class. You just call it from the HTML.
No, I know that. I mean, I can show you that in what you call in Photoshop as well. That if I don't add text, if I don't add a text, then I don't have to have a different button for each of the. If I don't have home written on that, then I can apply that to every. I can use that background image, or I don't even have to background image. Remember this Photoshop. If I just take and save that, I can apply that to my nav, my divs. If I just save this portion, right, this pixel, that much, and apply that to my div for navigation, it will be fine, isn't it? I don't have to make individual buttons. So that's what you need to know. I don't even have to go to that website to create, that heavy code to create this. You just use this much. That's all. It is not acceptable for the exam. That's what I'm trying to say. The Dreamweaver exam for level 2 specifically asks you to create a button. No. Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't give you that you have to create that button in a Photoshop, or you want to just go to that button generators and save as 5 files. That's also okay. Because you don't have a condition for a rollover. Does that make sense?
When you create in a generator.
No, no. Oh, that's only in a CSS generator. That's what I'm trying to say. Abdul, that's not in cool text. Cool text you have, yeah. It depends on what generator have you used. It's only CSS3 generators where you have only that CSS code, not the file. But if you're using any other generator, it will be in one image for each type of a button you would make. Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes when you go on a website, we can and have some words, and you can click on it. Is it the same concept? Is it how do you do that?
You have a banner.
The banner.
Banner is a background image, and on top there's a div inside it. Yeah, you can have okay. You're talking completely different thing, but that's fine. That's something to do with Dreamweaver. You are saying I have a insert div here. There's a div, right? That's a div. Now in here, I want to give this, let's say plus and an ID, and I say banner. Call it whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Here, background, browse, let's say task 1, London offices. Okay. So there's a banner here, and I have applied that ID. Yeah, that image is there, but you can't see it because there's not enough. But can you see the text already written down? because that image is a background. I I don't have to write in it if I would have given a definite size to that banner. If I've given height here, hi, and I can write whatever I want to write on top of. I can place another div on top of it here, and let's say banner text ID pay box 100, okay, 200, let's say height 100. This div has got, do you know where it is sitting? In which text?
Or the image, like banner changing the image time.
You can create a GIF files in Photoshop. You can create, what I'm saying is you can create a GIF file in Photoshop, which can be saved as a GIF, and that's it. You know, like the transition will.
With transition.
Yeah, transition is in Photoshop. Photoshop allows you to create an GIF file. What no? Yes,
I don't know.
you can do that in Photoshop. It's embedded within a Photoshop. Obviously, it's a tool of Illustrator, but then Adobe has it, so that's why you don't need to have in Illustrator. It's just available.
I saw some banners in Flash.
Uh-huh.
It's difficult. But
No, you can
I
just do.
find
Okay, if you are able to do the mock-up with me quickly, then I will show you how to create a GIF file in Photoshop as well. It's very easy. It's very easy to create a GIF file in Photoshop. Very quick.
I'm asking because sometimes the clients need a banner link for
You want a
like
ban?
publicity, you know.
Yeah, I know you're talking about an advert at the side or at the top where you can have one image and changes into a second one. That's fine. I'll show you how to do that, but let's do what we have to do first, right? For me, web mockup is the first thing which I want to do. That's what you need to. Button is yes, but then if you are seeing the concepts where there is a picture at the back and there is on top of text, then usually the picture is a background image, and text is a div inside it. So that's what would have been the case.
All the same things you're doing.
Yeah, I can have this can have a image on top of it and can have a hover. I can make it as a link. Up to you completely. I think I did mention something last time that there is a property called as display, which is visibility and display. Okay, I'll give you an example. Like right now, this div, right? This div here, it's called as banner text. Yeah. Now the banner text, I don't want it appearing in the beginning. So I go here and I go for block and I say display property none. The box is not there. It's there, but it's not there. It's invisible. Right? The box is there, but its property is hidden, invisible. Does that make sense? No.
Because normally the div is invisible.
Sorry? No, invisible means invisible. It's not, you can't see it right now. But I can make it visible at some other time.
Oh.
Right? So right now there is a box, but which is invisible, right? Now you want on hover over, but on hover over of what? That image should become visible. Do you understand?
Yeah, it's like when you have the map of the world, right? And then depending on the country,
Something needs to come up. Something needs to come up on or hover over. All you're saying is that something should become visible on hover over, right? Now hover over only works when you have links, right? A hover or whatever hover only works. So, but then there was a div here which at the moment is gone. Is that right? Right? I mean, it's not gone, it's there, right? So let's say at the moment, let's bring it back. If we just leave this nothing, it will come back, right? Display nothing means show, and display none means don't show. Or there is another what you call property called as visibility, which is visible, and hidden, which has got a property which is not. Now, can I have another div which is a link, which covers this? Can I have a div outside it in which this div sits? Right? So if I have, okay, let's select this div, right? And I say insert another div, wrap around the current one. Okay. So there's another div there, which is in which this div is sitting, right? Can I make that a link? Can I? How do I make this as a link? Hash or just type, right? So if there is a href, what? Hash. What does hash means? But if, what does hash means?
No target.
No target, nothing. But it's still a link, right? It'll still be a link whether there is, it's linking to something or not. But the only idea of giving this is my banner text has gone under this, right? My banner text has got a link. So can I add a property here which is no, I'll and then A, this is what you so used to writing down. A and A hover, right? This can be done to any ID also. Only if there is a link. Yeah? Does that make sense? If not clear, I'll go back to something else which you were looking at earlier and you will see what I'm trying to say. Remember we went to this 3 CSS button generator. Can you see this? What does it say? Wherever there is a class btn, hover of that. Only if it is a hover will only work when it's a on over. No, when it would have a link, because hover automatically works that. So that's exactly what I've done to mine. Banner text, hover. Is that right? Yeah. And all I have to do is change the property to display nothing or inline. Let's bring it. It doesn't matter, because this one should be none. I've applied a link to a wrong. Applied because there's nothing. I've applied a hover over on a wrong. Go back here. needs to come out. Banner text. Not div. I've made banner text. I'm just not sure whether this is a technique to do that. This is how it should be. No. I'll correct this and come back to you. I know this can be done. This is how we do it. It's just a two divs in within each other, and you hide one, and then on hover over you just bring it back again, and that's how your sliders are done. I've made two divs. I've made two divs. I've not given an ID to that. That's what I'm saying. I'll have to give an ID to that. I don't want to. I'll solve that and I'll come back. I have created I have created two divs in HTML. That's what I'm saying. But I'll correct that. I know how to correct it, but I don't want. Oh, there is two. There's one outside. Uh, Live close. That's one div, and the other one is hidden. This one is one, and that's what I'm saying. I've probably not done the right order, but that's fine. I'll correct it and come back to you. But in the